Hi friends, today's story is called Going to a Museum, and that's the title of our story, A World of Field Trips, and they're going to a museum. Ooh, wow, what do you think of this cover? What's on the cover of this book? Big dinosaur bones, right. Whoa, look at how tall that dinosaur is. You see those kids standing there. And they look little compared to those huge dinosaur bones, don't they? Yeah. The author is Rebecca Risman. All right. And she wrote this book. It's called Going to the Museum. Ooh, and right here I see a table of contents. And contents says, if you want to look on page 4, you'll see field trips. Field trip to a museum is on page 6. Different museums are on page 10. How should you act in a museum on page 20? What do you think on page 22? A picture glossary on page 23 and an index on page 24. So this book is very informational. It's going to give us information about the museum and what they might see in a museum. So it says field trips. People take field trips to visit new places. People take field trips to learn new things. It says field trip to a museum. Some people take field trips to museums. Museums are places where special things are kept. So it's where special things are kept in a museum. So a museum preserves things that are very old, like I see some bones back here. And it could be fossils or rocks or old airplanes. Look at hanging on the sky. And they protect them and keep them looking like newer. So they keep them safe so they don't get lost and everybody can see them, because we can't, like, where would you find a dinosaur bone, right? We'd have to go to the museum to see them. Museums display things in exhibits. So exhibits are like special cases or special areas where they keep the museum objects, items. Some exhibits change often. Other exhibits stay the same. So those look like skeletons of an ape, which is like a monkey. And this big old elephant, I don't think they would move very much, because I think they'd keep that the same, because elephants are very, very heavy. They weigh like a ton. And so I think this would probably always stay the same, huh? There are different museums. This is a history museum. So this shows like way back when, even before I was born, your mom and dad were born, like the items they would find like way back when. It helps us learn what life was like a long time ago. So a long time ago, they wore these fancy dresses. And that's really cool, isn't it? This is how people dressed way back when. This is a science museum. Ooh, so a science museum, you can learn, it helps us learn about how things work. So in a science museum, it's usually hands-on, and you can play with a lot of the stuff in a science museum, and you get to figure out how things work. This is a natural history museum. It has fossils of animals that lived long ago. So this is a history, natural history, and look at, you see some, I think that might have been like a woolly mammoth. You see the tusk right here? And they say these are fossils inside here. This is an art museum. It has sculptures, paintings, and drawings. So this is a famous painting, Mona Lisa. This is a sculpture. This is a space museum. You can see planets on a large screen. Wow, that's cool. That looks like maybe like a rocket ship, the plane they took to space. And here's like the space gear, like the space outfit that they wore in space. And then you can see the planets like in a big movie theater. How should you act at a museum? Remember to stay with your group. Yeah, it's important to stay with your group so you don't get lost, because museums are big places. You only touch things if you're told it is okay. Yeah, because they don't want you to touch things sometimes so they don't break, right? Because some items are very, very old and fragile, we call it, so they can easily break. What do you think? Ooh, there's a question mark. You're asking a question. What do you think? What kind of museum is this? Ooh, what do you think? That kind of looks like a robot to me. What do you think? And then we have a glossary here and explains like what exhibit means, what a fossil means, museum means, a sculpture means. And if your parents want to read that for you, that's a great idea. And here's our index, and it says if you want to find the art museum, go to page 16. If you want to find fossils, go to page 15 and 23. So that was a science museum that we saw that robot, and I asked us, what museum would this be in? That robot would be in a science museum. All right, that's the end. There's the back of the book. So I hope you guys learned some stuff about museums and what is in a museum. And all the different kinds of museums, art museums, science museums, natural history museums, all kinds of different museums, aren't they? And we have museums downtown in Grand Rapids. We have the Children's Museum. We have the Grand Rapids Public Museum. And then we have another museum, the Grand Rapids Museum. So if we were in school, we would get to go on a field trip to the museum in a typical year, but unfortunately there's that yucky virus going around, so nobody can take any field trips. But maybe someday you could go with your family to some of these museums and find the cool stuff there. All right, friends, thanks for watching.